Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftsman Matthew Evans. We warmly welcome the family of Private Douglas Thomas Smith, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Douglas Thomas Smith. Douglas Smith was born on the 20th of March, 1895, in Goulburn, New South Wales. He was one of 3 children born to local tailor Frank Smith and his wife, Agnes. He began his schooling at East Goulburn and later continued his education at Crookwell Public School. On completion, he took up an apprenticeship with C.W. Hack in Randwick, Sydney, where he trained as a carpenter for 5 years. This was his trade at the outbreak of the war in 1914. Smith enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 18th of October 1916. Having trained and worked as a carpenter, he was assigned to the 1st Australian Pioneer Battalion, where he would serve as part engineer and labourer and part infantryman. After a short period of training in Australia, Private Smith embarked for active service on board the troop ship Beltana in late November 1916. He arrived in England at the end of January 1917. There he continued training with his battalion until April, when he embarked for the Western Front. He joined his unit in the trenches at the end of that month around the French village of Bancourt and spent the first few months of active service constructing a light railway, erecting camps and divisional headquarters, training and conducting general trench maintenance. At the end of May, the 1st Australian Pioneer Battalion moved to the French village of Dernancourt, where it spent most of the month out of the lines, resting, training and playing sports. In September, Smith's unit was moved to the Ypres section of the front in Belgium, where it was engaged in constructing and maintaining roads and railways during the Battle of Passchendaele. In October, Smith was detached to the Anzac workshop, where he utilised his skills as a carpenter, building supports for trenches and constructing anything required for the war effort. He returned to his unit in Belgium in November 1917. In February 1918, he was granted leave to England and returned to his unit towards the end of the month. In the months that followed, Smith's unit carried out continued construction and maintenance work. By August, the tide of the war was beginning to turn. The Allies' major offensive earlier that month was hugely successful, delivering a blow to the enemy from which they would not recover. Smith was serving in the lines around the French village of Villers-Bretonneux on the 25th of August, where he and his comrades were sent out to repair the wire. As they were carrying out their work, the enemy began to shell their position. Smith and another man were hit and fatally wounded. His comrade recounted the event. "I saw him at St. Martin's Wood, hit by the same shell that got Private Bottomley. We were on a wiring party in front of an infantry advance post. He was badly smashed up and was killed instantly, never moved or spoke. We carried him about 20 yards into a trench and left him there that night. Corporal Barrett went out the next day with a party to bury him and the others. He was a well-liked chap." News of Smith's death reached Australia, and the Goulburn Evening Penny Post reported that Smith had been 2 years on active service. He was a general favourite. In the last letter received from him, he felt sure he would come through safely, and it would not be long before he returned home. His family and colleagues later posted a notice in his memory. His cheery smile and happy face are pleasing to recall. He had a kindly word for each and died beloved by all. Private Douglas Smith was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Douglas Thomas Smith, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. And we wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.